Hello, everyone. I'm happy to be here at the CDCon. My name is Shivagami Gugan. I'm a technology transformation leader from the Middle East, from Dubai. I'm an aviation technologist. I headed engineering, site reliability engineering, and cloud services at a large airline here. Currently, I am the global CTO at IDC Technologies. So today, I want to talk about two concepts, platform engineering and AI ops, and how do these two concepts contribute to improving the SRE maturity, and how does it make the life of our SREs better. So I hope from today's talk, the key takeaways would be what is it about taking a platform centric view, what is this platform engineering, and what are the benefits out of it. How do we use AI ops to improve resiliency? We will also look at a few AI ML use cases. We will look at how data ops helps you in the journey. So data ops is very briefly looked at, and mainly from improving the accuracy of AI ops. Yeah, that is how we have looked at it. We'll also look at a very simple recipe to implement AI ops, and then finally, how does it contribute really to the SRE maturity? Okay, so it is. I think it's no secret, right? Everybody who is here attending the conference will agree that the speed, the scale, and the complexity in which our systems have evolved in the past 4 or 5 years is totally unprecedented. So it has just grown exponentially, and it has just gone probably out of control of the human's ability to mentally model their behavior. Yeah? So we have to learn to navigate through this complexity, the distributedness, the ecosystem is so complex. We have cloud native services that we consume. We mix and match it with on-prem services. We like, a few services for which we really do not know, we do not have a control upon. So all these things have actually made our um, systems very, very messy and very complex. Uh, so and on the security front as well, so it's this there is a big change in the way we have to think. So previously we had this castle and moat model, where we put all our applications and our systems within the four walls of a network perimeter, and everything, we thought everything was safe, right? So our firewalls, our web application firewall, our IDS, our IPS, our SIEM systems, everything worked on that entry point to this castle. um, and these systems could talk to each other freely as possible, right? But that's not how it is now, given the complexity and what we have seen about hybrid cloud, multi-cloud, IoT, edge devices. We're talking about bring your own device, the way we connect through VPNs, mobile. So all of these things have actually changed the way we look at system, our architecture for security. Even if we talk about software-defined networks, we are really talking about moving away from network controls to identity controls, right? So, so we are talking about zero trust architecture here. Data and information protection also is undergoing a lot of changes from ATP, our threat protections that we'll have to implement. So rather than firefighting and being reactive, we are looking at how do we really proactively experiment. So be it the system complexity, be it the security landscape complexity, how do we really not wait for something to happen, but implement things like chaos engineering. And similar to what we are seeing about AI ops, right? Chaos engineering is something, irrespective of whatever maturity you are, you can implement. So it's a myth that you'll have to raise a certain amount of maturity and have all your observability in place and everything, and then only start chaos engineering. So the focus has to shift into chaos engineering, good things like AI ops, right in the beginning. Yeah, and it is a journey, of course, but there is nothing that is going to stop us from exploring and learning from these concepts, right? Now, what is the impact on the SRE? So I've spoken in a lot of my earlier talks as well that SRE is not about the end reliability, and it's not about, his goal is to, his or her goal is to ensure the reliability of services, but it doesn't mean that you can get operational reliability if you do not look at the left, right? So he or she could play multiple roles. Looking at reliability from a broader perspective, reliability is everybody's problem, and enabling the developers, enabling the product teams to have this, the focus on reliability, building it throughout. So broadly, even if we are looking at three models here, the product level embedding of SREs, where they would probably influence the design itself, talk about immutable architecture, teach the teams about fault tolerance being built right up front, observability being baked in, and all of that. Um, the second one is the system level. So they're really supporting releases, doing architecture readiness, looking at SLOs and things like that. Or the one that just leads into the next topic, which is about having an engineering center of excellence and enabling self-service, right? But it should not be understood that it is one of the three, or it's either or. It's not like that. It is, if the goal is to achieve resiliency, the SRE is multifaceted, and um, and generally plays multiple roles and wears multiple hats. Okay, so it leads, so the platform centric view, or having the centralized COE of SREs who are connected to this central platform, and then they are actually embedded across product lines, is a model that normally works because it gives you a jump start. And again, as per Gartner, automation initiatives will fail if we do not start focusing on self-service platform approach, because there are several advantages here. So it's not just about removing the fragmentation or the inconsistency or the unpredictability. That's of course one of the main roles, because you would be embedding governance, controls, and standards. You would be templatizing technologies. You would be giving a lot of jump start to the development teams, abstracting infrastructure, giving them cloud landing zones. It's not just that. It's the second concept is actually the in-source code. So which means the in-source model. So if there is something that is required for one part of the organization, I'm just giving an example, right? A feature flag is being introduced for the first time in your web and mobile area, and if you want that to be actually not just for economies of scale, but also for building it into the platform and having it as a reusable service, effort reduction and cost effectiveness, these are some of the major benefits that would give a real jump start for our SREs. Huh? So that's why platform engineering is one of the key enablers for SRE maturity. Now we look at AI ops. Again, a Gartner quote here. So AI ops is actually it's actually implementing big data internally for our own IT operations. Yeah, we are adept, and we've heard a lot about how do we actually curate data for on the business side, and we build data lakes, and we build Hadoop clusters, and we build Spark real-time processing and all of that. But I think if we can do some of it, at least for our internal operations, and if we have a focus on AI ops, there are lots of advantages. So we will look at some of the use cases there. So for example, again, going back to the first slide, where it's beyond human capacity to understand and correlate several things that are happening, which can be done very easily through the AI model. So anomaly detection is one of the key outcomes of unsupervised learning, right? And then you can have reinforced learning. So these are some of the advantages in building a big data platform for AI ops, and looking at real-time data, looking at historical data, looking at events, metrics, traces, logs, and then churning this data out so that we have real insights coming out of it. Now, some of the use cases here. So one is, of course, this anomaly detection that we spoke about, repeated incidents, or if there is something that is very unusual, using clustering, your AI model will be able to signal that out to your SRE. The other thing is, if your SLAs are getting violated, we could use predictive analytics to flag such violations even before it happens. And then we could actually take corrective steps in terms of how do we ensure that, we do not have a breach of SLAs. The other thing is root cause. So it could actually pinpoint to root causes based on performance data. It could predict the impact of performance anomalies. It could automate remediation. It could give you event resolution. It could, help you remove the blind spots. Again, going back to data that cannot be actually looked at. So the normal advantages of AI and ML and deep learning can be applied. You could intelligently route based on, you know, certain events happening to certain SREs. Your first call resolution speed can be improved because you can actually restore these services by building automation, by doing closed loop remediation, again attaching that to your AI model, right? I hope you get some kind of a insight into what is being uh, talked about from an AI ops perspective. Now, I just want to very briefly touch upon data ops, and mainly here, data ops is about it's about a culture. It's about having the practices that would give you clean, actionable data. And if you do not have clean, actionable data, your AI ops is not going to be precise or it's not going to be accurate, right? So, uh, that is why it is absolutely essential that we also look at data ops capabilities, and we look at the correct lineage of data, the ownership of data, the enrichment of data, and we build scalable data lakes. And we should have the capability of, if we are looking at recording data, like for example from chatbot, we're talking about unstructured data. So the simple recipe for AI ops is you identify what are the use cases from those 10, 12 that we looked at. What is it that you want to actually pick as your target? And then identify your data feeds. It could be historical data, service request, problem data, incident data. It could be your logs. And then, if you want to merge real-time data with historical data, this is possible. Then build your data lake in real time. Have your Spark real-time streaming or your batch Spark processes, whatever makes sense, yeah. And then curate the data and then build your AI models. And I'm talking about also using some of your industry standard models, which would give you again a real good jump start. If you use these models, and then you may have to rinse and repeat these so that you really um, have data that is actually predictable, huh? And that gives you real good insight. So this is no different from a AI or a machine learning model that you would implement in a business context or a business scenario for for classifying defects, for example. For it's the same, or to automatically route to the right concerned party. Okay, so this is my last slide. So what I'm my uh, uh, outlook here is, be it platform engineering, be it AI ops, all of these things lead to higher SRE maturity. It helps the SREs um, in building resiliency. It helps improve their lives. It gives a real good jump start. So if you look at the traditional model, which is the worst case, right? The incident happens, the customer knows, and then the customer tells you something has happened, and then it comes to L1 support, and then L2 support, and L3 support, all of that. And fortunately, we are moving with greater monitoring capabilities, greater observability capabilities. We are moving into, pattern detection, early alerts. We are also moving into greater diagnostic information, and we are crashing the MTTR. So we are going into descriptive and diagnostic maturity already. But if we go into predictive, which is what is AI ops, and if we do anomaly detection, if we can actually prevent the problem even before the impact happens, or if we have actually crashed the MTTR to such a level because we've already we've got a lot of diagnostic information because an anomaly was already detected. And of course, the prescriptive is the best method, right? So you're actually avoiding the incident from happening because you've used your AI and ML models and they have predicted the incidents, and then we have also remediated the incidents. Huh? So that's the best part, and the impact it would have, the positive impact it would have on revenue, on our, on our reputation itself, time to return to the business to normalcy, etc., is going to be extremely good. And I think, again, going back to the first slide, it may not become an option. Yeah, it may not be something that you have a choice about in the few years to come, right? Because it's going to become so complex that anyway, if you do not implement things that would help you, like for example machine learning algorithms, or the entire AI ops capabilities, then it is going to be very difficult to actually manage this entire complex system landscape, right? That is all I had to share, and I hope, you have got a few ideas that platform engineering or AI ops, and I also mentioned about chaos engineering, these are not like highly mature practices. These are practices that can be implemented uh, really, really early in your SRE DevOps automation lifecycle. Okay. Thank you so much for your time today, and have a great rest of the day.